I'm Etzion from Israel, Haifa. Today, the 26th of October, 2024. As usual, we start with a musical piece. This is my Haifa wind band, where I have been participating in the past 10 years or so. The band exists at least 13, 14 years, conducting Mrs. Shiri Kahana, our maestro, very able musician, who put us all between 30, 40 individuals, separate individuals, as she succeeds to put us together and produce one tune. As we all of us, when we work and play properly, actually what's happening, you hear one sound. This is a hint of the spiritual circle, which is supposed to bring us from manyness to oneness, to work as a cohesive spiritual group while our focus on the divine beloved. Now I would like to share another musical piece by our Sufis, the Sufi Choir from Walnut Creek, while performing in Mehera.
To be the living God, you have come here to become my love, to know and to serve the divine in each and in all. You were born to share the treasure of this birth, to manifest this purest love here upon the earth. Give all of self, and I will reveal myself in all, and suddenly you will belong to me. Suddenly you will know only me. Suddenly you will feel only me. Suddenly you will be everything that you see, a part of you, everything that you do, of love for me, all you were born to be, everything one with me. Accept my grace, dance to my rhythm and tune yourself to my key. Seek my grace, find me in everything. Open your heart to me, merge with me. Give me your life and resign yourself to me. Dissolve in me, that I may enfold you and you may become me. Accept my grace, dance to my rhythm and tune yourself to my key. Seek my grace, find me in everything. Open your heart to me, merge with me. Give me your life and resign yourself to me. Dissolve in me, that I may enfold you and you may become my feet, my hands, my breath, my heart. You will become, you will become, you will become my love. You will become, you will become me.
It's our Sufi Choir from Walnut Creek. Can you stop the sharing properly? What I wanted to emphasize that the Sufi group was initiated in the beginning of the 20th century by Inayat Khan, a spiritual master who came from India to initiate Sufism in the America. And before he passed away, he initiated Rabbi Martin as his successor, as a Murshida. She heard about Meher Baba. And before she passed away, she initiated Ivy Deuce as her successor, as a Murshida of the Sufis in America, instructed her to contact Meher Baba, Avatar Meher Baba, for spiritual directives, which she did eventually. She met Meher Baba, and Meher Baba reoriented the Sufis, and they call them Sufism reoriented. And this is our group, mainly established in Walnut Creek, to my knowledge. And the uniqueness of this group, as the members are focused not only on spirituality, but on the avatar of the age, Meher Baba, the divine beloved. In the spiritual circle, the members of the spiritual circle not only qualified with their instrument, whether is it a musical instrument or in the choir, their instrument is a body, mind, and spirit and soul. They're focusing on the divine beloved. To establish a spiritual circle, the participants must be centered on the divine beloved. They should have personal relationships, deeper personal relationships, which we in our band here in Haifa don't have. We meet once a week or so. Besides this, we hardly know each other. Few know each other, they're friends, but mostly we are not real friends. And with the Sufis, you can feel the friendship and the love between the people. If this is what's happening there with the Sufis, I don't know, because I'm not a Sufi. I'm not really communicating with them deeply, but I can feel behind the performance their aspiration and longing and the work which they have been doing for the beloved. And this can inspire us to keep on working for the beloved in this same sense of establishing unified circles of people who are devoted to the avatar, and their aspiration is to bring the spiritual essences on earth. Since a spiritual circle it has been acting like a magnifying glass, enhancing the spiritual energies on earth, helping humanity to overcome the non-stop creation of negative and destructive samskaras due to the massive ignorance of most of humanity. And this massive ignorance creates a non-stop conflicts and wars between people. And the only way to eliminate wars is being that we, the spiritual people, we take responsibility and reestablish spiritual circles. And when with the spiritual circles would reach a certain magnitude and even numbers, a spiritual compass would have been established on earth to direct humanity, to direct and educate humans how to approach the path and reduce significantly the negative destructive sanskaras, and this would bring the world to more or less peaceful balance. So for all those who cannot stop complaining of the phenomenon of war. The wars will continue until we will take responsibility and reestablish these spiritual circles. What I'm telling you is what I have absorbed in this life under the directive of the Avatar. That's what he taught me. In order to understand it, I had to go to many, many wars and had some studies and insights under his guidance. Now we'll continue back for a while to the story of the creation in Genesis, the creation of states of consciousness, creation of humankind, the purpose of humankind on earth, the fall of man, and the phase of destructiveness that we have initiated on earth. Here we continue the story of the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they became ashamed because they were warned by God, by the Godhead, by the Divine Beloved, not to do this. And as you know ourselves, when we being warned not to do something, we definitely are going to do it to find out why it is forbidden. That's one way of learning. So after they ate from the forbidden fruit, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves girdles, as they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden towards the cool, or wind or spirit of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called unto the man and said unto him, Where art thou? It's a constant cry of the Godhead towards humanity. Where are you? Where are we? We're anywhere under the trees. We fell behind the plant kingdom, behind the trees. Below became, instead of uplifting the creation, we fell behind the kingdoms, hiding behind the kingdom, worshiping the kingdoms instead of lifting them up. This is what this little story, this analogy portrays for us. Man detaches himself from his spiritual status and begins to build a world for himself that is detached from the initial planning, attaining supreme levels of consciousness. People have turned their backs on the system that is supposed to help and guide them. They hide behind the kingdoms lower than themselves. Mankind that was supposed to serve the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms lost its position in the leadership of creation and effectively fell behind these kingdoms. The clothing with which we robe our bodies is usually taken from the world of plants and also from animals, symbolizing the fall of man under these kingdoms. Our spiritual garment was destroyed when we fell, and we had to cover ourselves. The shame of our nakedness is actually, we started to see the ugliness of the subconscious mind, which was being created over eons of activity and ignorance. Even in the garden, even if everything is perfect, ignorance exists. As we know, this was the purpose of the snake, symbolizing ignorance as well. God walks in the cool of the day. What does it convey? That nothing happened. God looks at things with humor, with a light spirit. Everything can be fixed. The clothes symbolize the fall of man. However, the voice of conscience does not remain silent and calls man back to his original status. The voice of conscience, the inner echo emanating from the superconsciousness that exists hidden in each of us, tries to transmit, reverberates in our souls, calling us back to the right way of action on earth. But people turn their backs and escape responsibility. The voice of conscience is the spirit of the day, walking the garden of consciousness. The story of the fall of man, what does this story imply? What is the fall anyway? We deal with mental states. Where is the focus of consciousness? The limited soul is constantly wandering within us and is not focused. The person at the beginning of his career is looking for what is best for him, but because of his disability, he does not know what real good is, what is long-lasting good. He acts as he pleases to satisfy his hunger, his urges, trying to establish something stable in a changing world. He is unable to look far away. His selfish actions are actually destructive. He eventually destroys himself and his friends. We discover a new element added to the act of creation, forces that oppose man's proper development and work to seduce him and divert him from the spiritual path. Why do these forces exist and for what purpose? Is there a God and an anti-God? Is there a creator and a force that opposes him? A simplistic answer to this will make the creator limited and lacking. But we are dealing with infinite consciousness. And here too exists infinite intelligence that limited human understanding cannot comprehend. What we can see, however, is that the resistance and temptation that bring us down may also be the force that will lead to the development of psychic forces that did not exist within us in the first place. If creation flowed smoothly without failure, sorrow and pain, it would be virtually impossible to achieve the goal of creation. This requires tremendous mental powers. The development of these forces requires an enormous mental investment on the part of man. Every person must go through a series of failures and successes until the power is created within him that will enable him to break through the barriers imposed by creation and then fulfill the purpose of creation. It's not a simple and easy journey. It's not for the soft and kind-hearted. Of course, by men, I mean men and women. It's just for the sake of traditionally we prefer, we call it men, we should call it men and women. This is usually traditional way of fighting. And whenever man is written, it means men and women. We create the forces that oppose us while acting out of narrow and selfish considerations. These counter forces serve as essential tools in spiritual training. Discarding of personal responsibility in the disintegration of the human race. And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And he said, the Lord, who told you thee that thou wast naked? hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? The man said, the woman who thou gavest to me, to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. Shoving off responsibility. Here we see for the first time the phenomenon of evading responsibility and placing blame on the other. We see this phenomenon on a daily basis in all the occupations in which we are involved. Almost always, the other side evades responsibility when it makes a mistake and projects the responsibility onto the other side. In this way, humans continue to sink in the opposite direction of the planned evolutionary process, turning their backs on the purpose of life. This integrating the structure of the human race, destroying themselves and society. All what men had to do in this instance, I'm here, I'm responsible. If that would have been our answer, if this will be our answer, because this question is permanent. It is not something which happened in the past. It's happening all the time. And we'll turn our gaze back to the Lord and said, we are responsible. Then the world will be healed. As long as we don't do this, don't we approach the Lord with in such a way that we tell him we are responsible, he cannot help us. He is not going to force himself on us. And the Lord God said unto the woman, what is this thou hast done? The spiritual leadership of humanity, now acting as a team of superconscious beings, addresses mankind, rebukes, and guides. This leadership is constantly working through the conscience that is supposed to be active in our souls. The person in charge cultivates the conscience and listens to it. The person who escapes responsibility buries the voice of conscience behind 50 meters of concrete, but this concrete wall must crack sooner or later. Cosmic leadership does not allow this phenomenon to exist. And since humans refuse to take responsibility, dismantling these fortresses is fraught with suffering. Now the whole story continues. If you'll go to court, you see everybody's blaming everybody. Nobody's saying, I'm responsible. Otherwise, the courts and the lawyers would run out of employment if people become honest. And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did it. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, cursed art thou from among all cattle, and from among all beasts of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. They shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise her heel. Now we have established a constant conflict in the creation. The state of mind we choose to be in, the state of the snake, actually brings curses upon us. The conscious decision to escape responsibility brings disasters to humankind. All attempts to eradicate what humans see as evil is the impossibility of satisfying desires are doomed to failure. Selfish man condemns himself to an endless struggle with all the other components of creation, and especially with his fellow human beings. God does not curse anyone, of course. What is proposed here is an allegory for the conduct of human beings, the individual beings who are actually God, who walks on earth. People's actions, when they follow the cosmic plan, are blessed. When they go against the plan, they are cursed. That is, the results of the deeds return to the face of those who carry them out. And so people bless themselves or curse themselves. And to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy pain and thy travail. In pain thou shalt bring forth children. Thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In toil shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Here, what happens that we create ourselves as physical people, we lost our spiritual focus, fell back to the earth, to our mother, which created us, gave us a vehicle of expression, and we turn this vehicle of expression as a goal. We broke the spiritual circles, and we explained before that the destruction of spiritual circle is actually what is meant by death, because of course the individual never dies. The body falls apart, finishing a round of existence on earth, and due to our failures, what we have been doing on earth is in vain, almost totally, unfortunately. By virtue of freedom of choice, people continue to fall spiritually and actually descended in consciousness to the level of minerals, to the level of dust, the initial stage of creation. Instead of pulling creation up, people pull creation down. Creation is actually a circle of movement that leads from one place to another. From lack of consciousness to superconsciousness, breaking this cycle is a death that humans experience. Now being introduced is the law of cause and effect, action and reaction, what we call the law of karma. Scholar things doesn't appear in the book of Moses, but it appears all along, as we are going to witness it. In the story of man's expulsion from the Garden of Eden, the principle that every action must have reaction is implied for the first time. This can be called reward and punishment, or as it is known in spiritual literature today, as a law of karma. There is a possibility in creation to turn the focus of our gaze to where we think it is good. The purpose of creation is superconsciousness or godhood, and therefore this is a goal to which human consciousness must be focused. However, a person who is controlled by the subconscious instincts and who is connected to the physical world through his senses, which are in fact the fruit of past efforts to attain consciousness, almost always tends to focus on what seems good to him. which is a satisfaction of immediate urges, eating, drinking, and mating. Of course, the Torah and the sages do not refer to this term karma, Sanskrit term that was known at the time in the Far East, but whose meaning was well known. Hillel the Elder put it correctly in the well-known story of the skull he saw floating in the river. Because you drowned somebody, you were drowned, and those who drowned you should be drowned too. Hillel the Elder was a scholar for, I think, 1 century before Christ, or sometime before Christ, and he's a very well-known figure in Judaism as somebody who is more moderate and more not so strict than other schools. There were a few schools arguing with each other what's the proper way of worshiping God and his commandments. And Hillel was the one who took it easy. It's because it's a house of Hillel, and against him the house of Shammai. Shammai were more very strict. They made the scandal of every little mistake or omission. And Hillel was more he was of course very careful applying the precepts, but he took it easier in a way. It demonstrates the knowledge that every action has a reaction of the same amount and quality. It also demonstrates the knowledge of the eternity of individuality, which is born in the earthly sphere, subject to actions done in the previous cycle of birth, returning to life for better or for worse. I think we'll stop here. Next time. Just wanted to go show you below the drawing I made of what they call a cosmic engine. Just as a reminder, I showed it to you before. This is a diagram I wrote during 1984 after I wrote a little booklet in Baba Samadhi, which I call the story of creation. And I made it's a simplification of God's specs. And I drew this chart, very simple chart. It's also based on God's specs and what I was influenced while working on this book. And it tells us the movement of creation should be from the home point, which is here, where we are being born once, undergoing a process of evolution. The evolution, the circle, the black circle is growing, meaning it contains more and more impressions till reach the maximum size as a human body. And then we were supposed from here to go back to the creator, and you could see the process. The sanskaras are being reduced, and where all our subconscious mind is completely clear, we merge with the divine, with oneness, we're back to oneness, but we are still acting as a physical realm. This is the last stage, seventh stage, as it is being called sometimes. I call it also, called in the book of Genesis, the day of the Shabbos, the seventh day of creation. Where sanskars stop being produced, and the subconscious mind remains consistently clear, no matter what we are doing. From this, I felt like sharing Mehera's letters to me. Mehera, I met Mehera during 1979 in Meherazad, and 82, 83, by the end of 82, 83, became again to Meherabad, Meherazad. And during the meetings with Mehera, whom I knew her role, even before I met her and before I read anything special, somehow I felt her spiritual position. For me, I knew it, I don't know, but knew who is she and her spiritual position in that time. So this is Mehera letters to me. One of the first letters. The first one was 1980. You can go back to, as you can see, meherbabaisrael.com. You can go to the English section. From the English section, there you will see articles and letters, etc. Then you can read these letters. They are not written by Mehera, but by Meheru. To my knowledge, Mehera was not allowed to write. Maybe even she hardly read books. I don't know what exactly. She was under all her life under a very severe discipline by Baba till her passing. Also becoming forbidden to see any man till just before Baba passed away. She was ordered by him to greet the man Mandali and started to expose herself to the world, which I have seen as one of Baba's greatest gifts to humankind. That we could see and witness a person who is perfectly focused on the divine beloved to the degree that there is nothing else in her consciousness at all. Jai Baba and greetings to you from beloved Baba's home at Meherazad. This is from February 14th, 1981. I hope this finds you happy in Baba's love, feeling close to him. Baba is always with you through thick and thin. And whenever you need him, his guidance, you can call on him within your heart, and he will surely help you. Whatever are the conditions of the world, and you close the country, you should not take part in politics, but leave everything to beloved Baba. He is the avatar and will see to everything according to the plan, and time. For your part, when in any difficulty, remember beloved Baba and ask his help. Baba loves you, and his love never fails. So remember him, take his dear name, and be happy. And he will see to the rest. On February 25th is a day of all days for this world, beloved Baba's birthday, celebrated by Baba lovers everywhere. Jai Baba to you and happy Baba birthday from all your Mehera family. We remember you and send you love in Baba and best wishes for a happy new year filled with his precious love. Jai beloved Baba, love Mehera. It's quite a simple and powerful letter. Tells Baba conveyed through Mehera to me. Also, while I was there in Mirazad, she sent me a few times very powerful waves towards my person, which, of course, I didn't take it personally, but towards Israel also, because I came from that particular place. And he tells this letter and other letters, and all the archive which I have contains the letters Keri Ben Shammai received from the trust, from Meir Baba, through his disciples and others. Baba's very special concern about this place called Israel. And why I'm saying it? Because there are many people who in the Baba world, for whatever reason, they think that they know what's going on, and they take stance usually against the state of Israel. If they would bother study the history a little bit, they would know that the entire Arabic world rejected in 1947 the state solution and declared the war of extermination against the Jewish people. According to the so-called injunctions in the I don't know if in the Quran, but definitely it is in the Hadith. The Hadith is a tradition of supposedly the life and sayings of Muhammad, which were not recorded in the Quran. And the part of the instructions is to eliminate the Jewish people, to destroy all of them, because God hates the Jews. That's a tradition in Islam. And I wrote an article about this, and it seems that most of the people in this community either ignore it or reject it, or they think that I don't know what they think. It's a pitiful thing because it breaks, all these people break Baba's orders not to get involved with politics, not to gossip, not to get involved with something which doesn't bring them to the goal. Any of these occupations bring us sanskaras, negative sanskaras, non-natural sanskaras, which takes us away from the goal, while we have to produce positive sanskaras, which will bring us to the goal. And the best sanskar that we have to develop and be enslaved to is our focusing on the divine beloved. When we become completely enslaved to the divine beloved, then we become completely free. Whether we have sanskars or not, we are perfectly free. For keeps, this is what he wants from all of us. And unfortunately, all those who wasting their time on this, as I witnessed from Baba himself, as I explained his concern over the years, it was a long time ago, I experienced his grief over the fact that he gave himself so fully to humankind, so few take advantage of and mostly reject what he came to offer us. I'll conclude this session with this optimistic approach that we should focus on the divine beloved, center on the positive sanskars, and surrender to his will and forget all this world of ignorance and illusion with all its stupidities. If you focus on the stupidities of this world, We'll merge with this world and we will forget the avatar and we lose these benefits of this advent. And this is a real tragedy. All the other tragedies in the world are no more but illusions. This is all a mirage. So be well. See you next week. Bye.